A rare break of cross-party unity on the week of International Women's Day, when the long-awaited domestic abuse bill was introduced to Parliament. Almost a third of women will have experienced domestic abuse, almost certainly someone that you know.
It starts slowly, a few emotional knocks, alternated with the romantic gushes and promises of everlasting love.
One of them is the MP for Canterbury, Rosie Duffield, who moved the House of Commons to tears last October when she spoke of her own experience. Months later, she welcomes the reintroduction of the bill.
I think all sides of the House, all parties are welcoming it, because it was all interrupted by the general election in December, and we've all just been waiting to get on with things, and we have got that cross-party agreement, so I think, you know, it should get hurried through the House quite quickly.
What does the bill try and do?
I think it protects women in the most vulnerable situations and strengthens the protections around them. So women who are homeless, I'm really hoping that that is a protection that's put in the bill. Women who are vulnerable financially, Victoria Atkins and I were talking at an event about protecting women from financial abuse the other day. I know she's really keen on pushing that. I think it's just flagging up that women need that extra layer of care and protection if they are in a really vulnerable domestic violence situation.
Is there anything that you want it to do that it doesn't do?
I think we're very keen on my side to make sure that women are protected when they go to refuges from them being closed down, because there's not enough money. So the government were talking about giving more money to refuges and more money for those services, so we need to make sure that they are protected.
Do you think that sometimes with domestic abuse and domestic violence there's some misconceptions about what can happen and also who it can happen to?
Absolutely. I mentioned in my speech that it isn't just those soap opera families. It's not a particular class or a particular kind of person that's vulnerable to domestic violence or domestic abuse.
And I guess the victims find themselves becoming more isolated because of what the perpetrator's doing.
Because that's part of abuse, isn't it? To cut people off from their family and their friends, to stop their mobile phone use, sometimes even in the worst cases to lock them in the house.
And I guess the controlling behaviour as well and the abuse, it can be violent, but it doesn't always have to be violent.
Yeah, of course it can be violent. We all know about that, and women that will go to the doctor about something might have those things, those signs might be picked up. But if it's just more about control or financial abuse, then those things aren't necessarily going to be spotted.
And why did you decide to do your speech?
I think because in Parliament we talk about statistics and we talk about, we're kind of removed from the things we talk about, and debates like today's give us an opportunity to say we're ordinary women as well, we're ordinary people, and those issues affect us as well, and we're there, we're on your side.
For people who haven't heard your speech, and obviously I want to be led by you on this, but what happened to you?
I ended up reuniting with someone just after the election that I'd had a really nice relationship with for a couple of years, and he came back into my life saying, you know, I know you're the same person and I really want to support you. And when you're just propelled into the limelight without any kind of preparation, I didn't have a clue I was going to win or be an MP, that old familiar kind of thing was really appealing. I thought, this is someone who knew me and wanted to date me when I was a teaching assistant, it's going to be safe. And he made all the right noises and said all the right things. Quite shortly after we moved in together, he was proposing, and I felt kind of safe, and everything else around me was so kind of new and strange. But it didn't take long for me to see a completely different side to him. Yeah.
And what side was that then?
Violent tempers, constant threats. He was going to leave if I disagreed with him. At the drop of a hat, he was going to go abroad. He was going to just leave. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, I hadn't done anything differently or wrong. And it just stepped up. So the arguments would be, I don't know, maybe once a month at first. And then it got very quickly to the stage where I couldn't say or do anything without being kind of interrupted. And I got to the stage where I didn't want to go home and speak at all, because every single word I uttered would be interrupted with some kind of barrier or some kind of argument. And it just felt exhausting.
It sounds quite exhausting.
Yeah.
Was it controlling as well? Is that a word that you used?
Yeah, I felt that my opinions weren't allowed to be voiced. You know, I'm a politician, we have a lot of opinions.
It's interesting that you say he made you feel safe at the beginning, entering Parliament for the first time. How did he make you feel by the end of it?
More scared of going home than I was staying in the library working till 1, 2 in the morning. I didn't want to go home, and a couple of times I phoned him. I know now it was to test the water, to see how things were at home, and I would phone on the pretense of saying, do I need to pick up milk or dinner or whatever, and a kind of just in a few syllables, it would be obvious that actually it wasn't a great idea me going home. So occasionally I didn't at all.
When was it you realised that this was it, that you were in a bad situation that you needed to get out of?
People around me were noticing more and more that I was kind of more withdrawn. My team at work were just more and more uncomfortable when he was around. My mum works for a rape charity, actually, and she was kind of saying, I'm not really comfortable with what I'm hearing, and I'd kind of deny it and make excuses. But then there were days where, you know, like I said, the arguments were once a month or so, and then they were kind of every single day, and I was so tired, and I felt like there was no chink of light left, there was no oxygen. I couldn't say a single thing, and I thought, I can't live like this a minute longer. So yeah.
And how did you manage to...
It took a few weeks, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And I didn't want to end things. I mean, I absolutely adored this guy. We were engaged, and you know, he would tell me how much he loved me all the time. So it was kind of unravelling those mixed messages as well. I didn't feel loved, but he was telling me how much he loved me, and we were still quite romantically involved and dated and things. But yeah, I thought, I can't take this anymore. You just feel like you're on the verge of tears all the time. I'm not soft at all, actually. I appear like that, but I'm pretty tough. I've been a single mum for a long time. And he would just make me feel like I just wanted to cry every time I walked in the front door, which was ridiculous.
And how do you feel now?
Relieved, but still kind of not entirely over it, I have to be honest.
But that's a brave thing to say as well. Like, it is a brave thing to say.
It takes a while, and you kind of, you know, you talk about it, or you get sort of flashbacks of certain conversations, and it was really bloody hurtful. And at the time, I couldn't necessarily cry. I didn't want him to see that he'd hurt me so much, so I would just withdraw and withdraw. So now I feel freer to just face up to what happened.
And your story is definitely going to help a lot of other women who
it seems to
are
have
in a
done a
similar
little
situation.
bit, and I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you must be so pleased to see the legislation going through, even if there are other things that you'd like to see changed as well.
It means that we can have that conversation. It means that women know that we're taking it seriously.
And do you think there is a worry that, you know, sometimes domestic abuse hasn't been taken seriously enough?
Yeah, I think it was seen as a kind of fringe thing. You know, stop it. We're telling men, just stop it. And it is mostly men. I know that men are also victims of this, but just everyone, there's no excuse. We're going to make it the law that, you know, you have no hiding place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.